Hello, church family. Our own Missouri Governor, Mike Parson, conducted a conference call with Missouri pastors yesterday, and he specifically called on churches to model social distancing as an example in our communities, in part by not calling together any groups of 10 people or more. For us here at Perche Baptist Church, this is a position we have already taken. And this is what most all Missouri churches have actually already done. Of course, we are getting a similar message from the CDC, from the White House, and other government officials. But this message was specific to Missouri churches. I do believe that Governor Parson understands the need for churches to continue to conduct ministry, and at such a time as this. But he is asking that we get creative and look for new ways to do ministry, and by thinking outside the box and beyond the ways that we are so accustomed to conducting real ministry. So I encourage you to embrace the request and to get creative, and let's look for new ways to be the church. If you have prayer requests, let's get those passed along. Give me a call and I'll do a one call to update everyone on those. Please, let's also keep after our Be the Church challenge. Make a minimum of 2 phone calls per day, every single day. 1 phone call to a fellow church member. And this is one way that we can continue to maintain a connection, to stay connected at a time when we're feeling a little bit disconnected. Also, 1 call, minimum 1 call to a non-church member. And this will help others who are not part of a community of faith like we are, maybe to begin to see the value, understand the value of being a part of a community of faith like Perche Baptist Church. When you call, just check in and ask for a prayer request. If you're comfortable doing so, go ahead and pray right there on the phone call, but don't feel like that's what you've got to do. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't do it. Just make the call. Pray before you call, then make the call. And it's a minimum of 2 calls per day, but you don't have to stop at 2. Also, just a reminder about our tithes and offerings. Yes, we are all a bit anxious about the economy and our own personal finances, but please do not neglect the church. Please continue to set aside your tithes and your offerings for the church. Lifeway is doing a pretty cool thing. They are providing us, our church, and a lot of other churches, they're providing us with an online giving option at no charge during the pandemic crisis. And the plan is to have that set up before Sunday, an online giving option. And so this will allow us to send our tithes and offerings to the church online, much in the same way that most of us pay most of our bills now. It'll be a good test run for us, maybe to check it out as a possible permanent arrangement. I know that our family would take advantage of that if we had that option set up on a permanent basis. In addition, Governor Parsons, a confessed Christian himself, also requested that we share a message of hope in this time of uncertainty. Church, we will get past this. This is a temporary situation for all of us. God's Word challenges us many times, in fact, hundreds of times, to fear not. He has promised to never leave us, never forsake us. In fact, God's Word tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but instead one of power and love and sound judgment. In these extraordinary days, in such a time as this, let's lean hard into God's Word and let's exercise that power and love and sound judgment that God has given us. I shared something on social media, what someone else had written. I didn't write it, but it made a lot of sense to me. And it provided a reminder for us from really kind of the 10,000-foot view of some of the silver lining of this whole situation that we find ourselves in. And basically the message was this: in a very short period of time, God has taken away much of what we have been worshiping. instead of worshiping God. I believe that God either orchestrates or allows every single situation in our lives. I believe that. He either does it himself or he allows it to be, and then he makes good out of that situation. God sent the storm and the big fish that swallowed Jonah because that's what Jonah needed. God either created this situation that we find ourselves in, or he allowed it to be, and he will make good out of it for those who love him. Now, you want to worship athletes instead of me. Maybe that's God asking that question. Solved. Shut down the stadiums in athletics for a bit. You want to worship musicians instead of me. Solved. Shut down all of the arenas and concert venues for a bit. You want to worship actors in Hollywood instead of me. Solved. Shut down all the movie theaters for a bit. You want to worship money instead of me. Solved. Economy and stock market collapsed for a bit. You want to show up to church maybe one time a month, every 6 weeks or so. Solved. Now you can't go at all. God said in 2 Chronicles 7:14, ought to be a memory verse for you, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I'll hear them from heaven and will forgive their sin and, get this, will heal their land. If my people who are called by their name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. So be encouraged, church, because we already know how this whole thing wraps up eventually anyway, right? You know, this whole operation, this whole thing that we call life here on this big earth, it's all temporary for us as children of God. This life that we're living in this broken world, it's not it for us. This is not our home. And we have this hope as an anchor for our soul. Firm and secure. But also let's take advantage of this downtime. This time of isolation from the usual distractions and the noise of the world. Those things have been set aside. And let's chase after some revival in our own hearts. Let's look for refreshing and renewing. Let's look for ways to refocus our focus on what matters. To make the main thing once again, and his name is Jesus. Church, God bless you, and we will be together again soon.